By the end of the day, we are all going to know how to implement AI in our workplaces.
You do need champions in different departments to lead the change, but there also needs to be a business reason to adopt AI.
We will live in a world where humans and agents will be coexisting almost forever.
Once you start to think of it as a teammate, then things start to go much better.
Much better for your productivity.
And that makes AI incredibly powerful.
Thank you so much. All right, this is going to be really fun. We're going to have a fabulous day, lots of good conversations. Glean has been a great partner. We just had a fabulous lunch talking about all kinds of hard things in AI. So by the end of the day, we are all going to know how to implement AI in our workplaces, how to solve all the organizational structure problems, how to solve all the personal problems, how to solve the efficiency problems. So now let's start with trust issues. So please welcome to the stage Connie Noonan-Hadley. She's an organizational psychologist, founder and chief scientist of the Institute for Life at Work. She's written all kinds of really smart and interesting papers. Stephen Wunker, the founder and managing director of New Market Advisors, co-author of the Octopus Organization. Isn't that a great title, the Octopus Organization? I think that's awesome. Chris Dovey, head of AI product strategy and innovation at Adobe. All right. Let's go. Okay, so Connie, why don't we start with you?
Okay.
Lots of times people try to implement AI in their organizations. It doesn't work, and they think it's a technical problem, but it's actually a human problem. Explain why that sometimes happens and what organizations should do. Stephen, you look like you're leaning forward and want to jump in and either agree or disagree.
I am fully agreeing with that. There is so much fear about job loss, so I think HR needs to be there to set appropriate expectations. But also people need to change the way they work with each other because we have AI. A big fallacy I'm seeing in companies is that they treat AI like a tool. And we're going to swap one tool for another. We're going to swap a steam-powered machine for an electric machine. And, that's nice, but that doesn't give you the assembly line. The assembly line comes from the system thinking. How do people work with each other in a different way? And HR is one of the organizations. Certainly there need to be others at the table too, but they need to think about how do human relations change.
Steve, can I give a theory to you? So one theory that I've heard on AI is that in basically every organization, the executives want to do it, right? Because they want the efficiency. They're told by the board that they need to do it. They need to grow. They've used tools. They've met lots of people in the AI industry. They're psyched, right? And then as you move down different layers of the organization, people are like, what the hell is this thing, right? It's like, A, it's going to take my job. B, it's, dishonest. And C, the organization's implementing it all wrong. So for an organization to implement AI efficiently, you can't just have the CEO say, damn it, I'll use the damn tools. You need influencers in the organization. You need people at every level who are giving examples. Is that an accurate and good theory, or is that a wrong theory?
So I think you do need champions in different departments to lead the change, but there also needs to be a business reason to adopt AI. It can't just be use this technology, but here's a business objective. Maybe it's radical customization for a customer, or we're going to schedule the nurses in a much more efficient manner, and the only possible way of doing that would be AI. Then people have to turn to the tool to accomplish the objective. But then critically, they don't just think about the tool in isolation, because that's going to get you into a lot of trouble. But they're thinking about the whole system of work that it fits into.
Connie, you've written and studied the question of loneliness and the question of how colleagues relate to each other. In an age of AI, so let's say an organization does implement AI, and now everybody's running their agents and they're doing their PowerPoints together, and ideally they're not doing work slop, but they're doing real stuff. How do you maintain the social cohesion that an organization needs? Steve, do you want to jump in on that?
I would like to jump in. So, agree. Obviously, that's a concern. There are many changes in how people are going to relate to each other, which could have some downsides. So, for instance, sales can now create its own marketing collateral. How does marketing feel about that?
And they can make their own sales data.
Going to be. Sorry?
They can make their own sales material too, right? This is the weird thing about organizations now.
Right. So in a way, that's good, right? It creates a lot more rapid action and customization, but it might disempower some other people. On the flip side, marketing now has more visibility into what sales is doing because AI is making unstructured data structured. And so you have a lot more opportunity to meddle too. So where are we going to be on that spectrum from meddling to just going and doing wild and crazy stuff? These are things that in time are going to get worked out, but because AI adoption is happening on such an accelerated schedule, or should be more because we're doing this conference, that we have to sort this out quickly and ask the hard questions.
All right. So why do you explain what an octopus organization is and one theory for this? If anybody on this panel can explain an octopus organization, you're the man.
Yes. So look, the octopus is remarkable for many things. It's hyper adaptable, but for AI, it is such an apt analogy because an octopus actually has 9 brains. It has a central brain and then one in each of its arms. 2/3 of the neural tissue in an octopus is not in its central brain. So it thinks in an entirely alien way to us humans, but in a very appropriate way when thinking about how AI creates distributed intelligence around an organization. Now, what this enables an octopus to do is to react and sense much more locally. So one arm can be opening up a clam, another is exploring a cave, and they can act quasi-independently, even communicating with each other in a de-siloed sort of way without involving the central brain. So finally, look, after 40 years, we've been talking about devolving authority and breaking down silos, and people aren't doing it because it's been hard. Now AI makes it a lot easier.
Can I ask you a question about the physiology of an octopus? What happens if one arm is like eating the clam and it's like really excited, like good clam, and like it knows that there's like a lot of clams, right? And the other arm is like in a cave and suddenly there's a shark and shark bites arm. So you have one arm that's like, let's stay here and eat the clam, and the other like, let's get the hell out of here. But there's no central brain to decide what happens.
So one of the best things about my job is I get to watch a lot of videos on YouTube of octopuses. And you will see how they're just doing their things and then something happens and bang, all the arms are in coordination. So the central brain can override, just like a corporate headquarters can override. But it's an exception.
So an octopus organization, you're decentralizing and devolving authority. You're letting organizations have more power because like marketing can do some sales can do some marketing. They're kind of each maybe competing with each other in like their little clam caves. But then if something goes really wrong, right, HR and the CEO jump in action.
That's right. So it's a much more coordinated, fast-moving, adaptable way of organizing.
Chris, can we go, the Octopus Organization is amazing, and I want to talk more about the Octopus Organization, but I also want to stay on this loneliness point because that was super interesting. Stevie, will you, we only have a couple minutes left, so why don't we end, we'll go to you and then to Connie. How exactly should the folks in this room who run these big, product organizations, tech organizations, how should they implement the octopi? Octopuses or octopi?
It is octopuses. It is a Greek term, not a Latin term.
Okay. Thank you. Wow. God, stuff. Someone just say that's right. God bless the audience. Okay. How should they implement the octopuses?
So you got to do it in stages. You can't do the whole transformation at once. You'll die. Keep doing your pilots. That's nice, right? It gets people comfortable. But then choose a couple, maybe a half dozen workflows where you can really deconstruct what's been going on, not at the level of person and job description, but at the underlying task. Microsoft calls these work charts as opposed to org charts. And then reconstruct how you might do things in a very different way with the guiding principles of devolution of authority and de-siloing. AI makes that possible in ways that you could just never do before.